Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Flowers from Lake Michigan College. I'm the Dean of Career and Workforce Education here. You are in the session How to Build Successful Fab Lab Camps with Chad D. Chad D is originally from Southwest Michigan area and then relocated to South Bend, Indiana in the early 90s. Although he's still located in South Bend, Chad returned to work in Southwest Michigan in November of 2008 of Right of Worlds with the MTech of Lake Michigan College. Currently, as the director of Hanson Technology Center, Chad oversees events that take place in the Technology Center as well as the Fab Lab. The Fab Lab has offered summer camps for 4 years, and things continue to evolve as Chad will explain. Thank you, Chad.
All right. Well, thank you, Ken, for that introduction. Sorry about the technical difficulties there. But to start off with the Fab Lab camps, kind of a how-to guide, I kind of wanted to show everyone the actual Fab Lab in its entirety so you could kind of see what it is we're working with. So that is an overview shot of the Fab Lab with some people working in the middle. If you look all the way towards the top, you will see our 3D printers. All the way on the right-hand side, we have our wood shop. Towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see our sewing department.
Hey, Chad.
Yes?
We're seeing your slide notes. You want to...
Oh. Well, goodness. I'm just not having a very good start to this, am I?
You're just fine.
How's that?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Now I just need to move that over here. Now I can see what I'm doing. Okay. Over to the left where you can't see is our vinyl and our laser, but we'll show you that here in just a moment. It's kind of a better view of our wood shop area that's got the mini lathes. Behind that blue wall is our shop bot. So we have a CNC router that's available for people to use. You can see the panel saw there along with the toolbox and some storage area where we have some power tools. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the Fab Lab. This is our lasers. We have 4 different lasers available. A Glowforge, which is highly popular in home use. We have 2 epilogues that are that we use basically for our cutting and for most of our engraving. And then the big red machine that you see there is our workhorse. That's the one that we use when we're making kits and making different items for the public. So just to kind of want to give you an overview so you can see the different areas of the Fab Lab. One thing that I did want to mention as well is that before the Fab Lab was actually put together, many of the tools that you see here were from different departments. They were already used, they were already here. We kind of used what we had available to us and then added to it as needed by community needs. The Fab Lab opened in April of 2017, about a half a year after our building actually opened. We wanted to make sure that we had everything up and running the way that it needed to be before we opened the lab up to the public. One of the questions that I got in 2017 in late spring was, are you going to do any camps for kids over the summer? Which was a great idea to do, but we didn't have a whole lot of time to put it together, and I didn't want to do it without fully thinking through and really having all of our ducks in a row, if you will. So we didn't start doing summer camps until 2018. And in 2018, we started off with 8 different camps that we did over different weeks. Each camp was directed towards a different age group. It had a different cost point. There was a different price point for each one. But we did things that we were already comfortable with. Arcade building was something that a lot of us were looking at doing. We were looking at actually purchasing an arcade machine and saw how much it cost. So then we decided we were going to go ahead. And build our own. And as we built the arcade machine, we saw we were able to do it for about a fraction of the cost of buying a brand new one. Ukulele building was another one that we saw that was very popular amongst other Fab Labs. Other Fab Labs and makerspaces are all very cooperative with each other. We like to do a lot of sharing so that we can actually build off of each other and do a lot of the same things, because there are makerspaces just throughout the entire world. But ukulele building was one that we started with just a kit, and we did it kind of very vanilla, if you will, at first, by just having the actual ukulele, and I'll get into how we continuously improve that, if you will. And then cosplay camp. We have a cosplay club here at the college, and we decided to tap into our resources that we already had with the cosplay club and continue on and give an opportunity for kids to actually learn a little bit about it, and then learn some life skills as well. Sewing, and then also included some of the manufacturing skills with the lasers and the 3D printers as well. So like I said, use if you're looking at opening a makerspace or having your own, doing something like this with camps for kids or any adults actually. Use your resources that you already have. Take a look at what you already have available to the college and kind of partner with other faculty and staff and use what we have. So we have quite a bit of a following on our Facebook Fab Lab page, which is why we kind of group these all together. But we have a virtual reality lab here at our campus. So we went ahead and we opened up a camp for virtual reality. We have drones here on campus. So we did a drone flying class that was more information based, but the participants were able to actually go out and fly a drone around for about a half an hour. They had a one-on-one, if you will, with the instructor for that camp, where they could fly the drone around campus, take pictures, take videos, and then we emailed the videos and pictures that they took with that. Coding classes. We taught kids how to code by using Minecraft and Roblox and various other video games, where they actually were able to go in and create their own worlds, create their own games, and they learned how to code that way as well. And as I mentioned, if you get other faculty involved, get other staff involved, you can really kind of grow your programs, and you can make camps that you didn't think were possible. I can pretty much guarantee that any program that we hear at Lake Michigan College, we can incorporate the Fab Lab in some way, shape, or form. It may take a little bit of time. It may take a little bit of effort of doing some creative thinking, but there's something that we can do that can incorporate the lab into either a credit program or even into a hobby program. Speaking of the hobby, we had a person that was using the Fab Lab for a while, and he is I don't want to say the president, but he's the leader of a model rocket club that's here locally in town. And he wants to grow the club, and he wants to get kids involved with building model rockets. So we're going to do a model rocket workshop. It's things of that nature that just, talking with the people that come into the lab and seeing what they want to do is able to then kind of grow the lab and grow into different workshops that people may or may not want to register for. We've had some duds, but if we don't try it, we just never know. So you can see on the screen, these are some of the other summer camps that we did last year. We did Fab Lab for Your Health. We got the medical assisting faculty involved, and we did different things such as the participants learned how to sew by making a plushie, and then they basically stabbed the plushie and learned how to do a suture by stitching them up. We did a make your own musical instrument, where we deconstructed various parts of computers. I think we deconstructed a pool as well that was going to be recycled and thrown away. And we had them get creative and make their own musical instrument. Kind of think Dr. Seuss meets Blue Man Group for that one. But they made some pretty interesting instruments during that one. And then ukulele building, we partnered with another music faculty member, And not only did they make the ukulele in the Fab Lab, they decorated it, they learned how to string it, they learned how to play it as well. So that was that's kind of how we just continuously grow with the lab. Ukulele building is probably one of our most popular ones, but we want to keep making it better for each year and for all the participants. There is a question in the lab, or a question in the chat of what the operating hours are for the lab. And right now, we're doing what's called Maker Monday, which I'll talk about as well. Noon to 6 on Mondays, where the techs are here and available for people to come in and just tour the lab. They're able to come in and work on anything that they, ask any questions, work on a project that they may have. And then the rest of the week, we have it open for workshops. And then depending upon, the registrations for the workshops, we do the private events for people to come in. And if they need just kind of some one-on-one time, or they just need to use a laser for a couple of hours, we do it that way. We had open hours for a while, and we found that a lot of times people just weren't showing up because they were a little intimidated with the equipment. By channeling it all into one day made it sound a lot easier to do, and it was a lot more effective, if you will. And yeah, it does sound like the Muskegon one. Chris and I we talk quite a bit. We're buddies on Facebook as well. We watch what each other is doing, and I'm happy to say in a nice way that we steal from each other all the time. Again, it's all about collaboration, and what may work down here may work or may not work up there, and vice versa. So we kind of talk about the different things. Chris has been down here a couple of times. Great guy. So the next one, this is some of the stuff that we had planned, but COVID hit, and that seemed to be a kind of the excuse for everything the last year or so. So I thought it'd be kind of fun just to put this out here. We were working with athletics and working with the director of our athletic programs, and we were going to do a Fab Lab and baseball camp. Didn't work out, but we're looking at doing it again, and actually we're looking at doing a Fab Lab in golf camp as well. Esports, we do have an esports program. That's a hobbyist. It's a club as well. And I'm working with the faculty member to do that. We weren't able to do that because of the COVID restrictions that we had available, but we're looking at doing that again. And then the last one that we were looking at is the light tracking robot, which I actually have an actual picture of because we kind of prototyped it before we were going to roll with it. But our physics instructor, we kind of got together and we were looking at what we could do. And you can see on there that some of the blue part, especially, that was going to be 3D printed. There was another part that's on the bottom that you can't really see that was 3D printed. And then we were going to use use soldering and talk about some of the manufacturing processes to actually get a light tracking robot. So some of the other things that we do in the lab are we do seasonal workshops. Right now we're doing this is the picture that you see there with the laser cut, which was just done about a week ago. We do that as a kit. We did it as a kit last year because of COVID, and we also do it as a make and take, if you will, right here in the lab. The laser goes through and cuts all the pieces out that you see there, and then they paint each one individually, and then they put it all together. The laser takes probably about 5.5 minutes to laser cut each one of those pieces, and then it takes an hour or two to put it all together. Christmas, we are having a whole bunch of new Christmas ones. What you're seeing there in the middle is a Christmas card workshop where you could actually make your own Christmas cards. Those are pop-up. The laser cuts the paper, so it's very detailed. But when you actually open up the card, it has a 3D effect. And you can, the files are done, so you can make it based off of whatever color that you wanted to do. And that was just kind of a picture that showed all the different colors of construction paper that we used. And on the right, you see the Easter one, where we did laser cut bunnies and also an Easter egg hunt. And then last year, we actually did a virtual Easter egg hunt around the lab. where we use some fun 360 technology and then hid the eggs, if you will, hid in quotation marks, around the lab, and people got to virtually go through the lab and try to find them. And they had to scroll really in and scroll out. We hit them around things. It was a lot of fun. So those are some of those seasonal workshops that we do. And when we did the camps, we were trying to figure out what we could actually do with the actual camps. And there's absolutely no need to recreate the wheel. So we used a lot of our workshops that we already had in place, modified them a little bit, and then put them all together. Our most popular summer camp that we do is our Fab Lab boot camp, where we run it just like we run the workshop, but instead of over just a 3-hour one day, we do it over 4 days. And we give them 3 to 4 projects that they can do every single day, and then say, pick whatever project that you want to do. We usually have something going on in the wood shop, something going on in lasers, and then something going on in either sewing or vinyl, and then allow them to pick what project they want to do for that day. And then once everybody completes that project, we take it off and then add another project for the next day. You can see one of our little guys sewing. He was making a pouch, I believe, in the Fab Lab boot camp. And then one of our most popular workshops that we do is pen making. And we have mostly kids. Adults love doing it as well. But we've had the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts. We do a lot of private events with birthday parties. Actually, I just booked another birthday party this morning for a group of kids that want to come in the lab during the weekend, and they want to wood turn pens. It's fairly simple to do. It's pretty messy to do, but the kids seem to love it, and they have a great time doing it. So it's one of the things that we incorporate into our boot camp as well. And you can see the clocks that we made, where we cut the clocks out with the CNC router. They could laser whatever face they wanted to on them, and then they use all the mechanics to put them together. So there's a degree of creativity, a degree of personalization, but they get to actually use the machines and become familiar with the machines. And hopefully maybe they want to go into manufacturing or go into a program that utilizes these kind of machines when they get a little bit older. So I was debating on whether to put this in here or not. I'm a numbers guy. I like to look at numbers, and I thought some of you may want to as well. So if you wanted to take a look, here's the numbers. In 2018, we had 8 camps with 85 participants. 2019, we ramped it up and we did about double of both of those. And then 2020 and 2021, during the COVID years, if you will, they kind of obviously went back down. In 2020, we were only able to run 3 weeks worth of summer camps, but we were able to run 5 camps during those 3 weeks, and we had to be very limited on our participation. So which is why we only had about 27 participants, which you can see was only about 4 to 6 or 7 people per camp. In 2021, we ramped them back up a little bit, but we're hoping that in 2022 we'll be able to go full throttle. So another question that was in the chat was how much for a private party, and that really depends upon what the workshop actually is and what it is that they want to do and when they want to do it. If it's during a time that we're already open, we just charge for the materials, the fees, and basically what we would charge a person coming in off the street and doing it. So if they wanted to do pens, for example, pens are usually about $20 per person, and if they wanted to do that, they had 6 kids that they wanted to do, we just did 120. If it was during the weekend, then we kind of do a little bit of an upcharge for that, and there's an upcharge because we have to open the facility, and we usually have to have another person here, so we have to make sure that we have all of our costs covered. Peter put in how do you manage your finances? We, just like we do with any of our other orgs, we have a budget that we have to stick to. We have dedicated times, a dedicated amount of money for the techs to be working, and we have basically, there's a certain dollar amount divide that by how much they get paid per hour, divide that by how many weeks we have, and then that's how many hours I can get them to work per week based on legal restrictions, of course, because they are part-time. So right now I have 2 techs and trying to hire another one because we are growing. So it's just a matter. It's a delicate matter of making sure that your costs are covered when you do a workshop. I put together a worksheet that I'd be happy to share with anybody. There's nothing secret about it. That kind of puts down how long the workshop is, what our material and supply costs are, and then how much money do you have to make to have the overhead on there. So and then it gives you a cost per person. And techs recruited from town, part-time. They are part-time, yes, and they are recruited. Actually, I try to recruit students as well, students that are already in the program that have knowledge of some of the equipment that we have. And then it just kind of works out. The one gentleman that both of them were students in the past. One's getting ready to graduate. The other one graduated, I want to say 2 years ago now. So based off of the success that we had with summer camps, we decided to go ahead and start what we're calling the WOW series. And the WOW series, WOW stands for Weekly Opportunity Workshops. We're trying to put together some different workshops that can be done after school, if you will. So we did an intro to sewing. And by the way, we've been doing this since basically the middle part of September. So it's only a little over a month old. I will say that all of our workshops that we've been doing have been selling out. I will also say that we've been doing them with a minimal amount of people, anywhere from 2 to 6, just because they're all brand new workshops, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're giving the right amount of time. So for example, our intro to sewing, we taught people how to sew by them making a backpack. It was a little bit of a rambunctious project, if you will. There was, 4 people in there, and 1 person after 3 days finished. So what we had them do is come back in on Monday, and 2 more finished the following Monday. So we learned either drop it down to 2 or 3 people just because of the amount of equipment that we have, or get an easier project to do, or increase the time as well. But 3 hours each night, just like with any class, people start getting burned out. RPG Maker, we got RPG Maker for free for the first couple of months, and wanted to try to figure out if we could teach kids how to code and build video games, and it worked. So we incorporated a create your own video game, challenge your friends, and eat pizza each night. And it was a 3-night, if you will, workshop for kids to come in and create their own video games, and that worked out really well. And the one that we're in right now, we're in our second version of it, is the build your own 3D printer. We bought some Ender 3s, which are really great home units, and marked them up a little bit so that we can cover the text time with it. And everybody made their own, put together their own 3D printer. We're including a roll of filament in there as well, so that by the time they are done, they're walking out the door with their own 3D printer. These are great home machines. They only cost a little bit under $200 a piece, and the quality is phenomenal for these 3D printers. But what we also do is we go through a little bit of 3D modeling so that they get a little bit of exposure to that, so they can get excited about it. But also we do a lot of troubleshooting and show them, what could happen, what will go wrong, what parts, fail out on a 3D printer, and then how to change them. So if X happens, change Y, and you'll be able to then get your machine back up and running. And I always tell people, anyone who wants to put their own makerspace together, put together your own 3D printers, so that when they fail, because they will get used a lot, you know what it is that you need to replace. So Steven said, is everything housed in one lab space, or are multiple spaces utilized to access different equipment? So the actual equipment in the Fab Lab is all in one space. The top, or the first three pictures that I showed, are just different angles of our lab. You will see, like with the RPG Maker, we have a simulation classroom that has a 16-foot by 9-foot digital touchscreen display. And I like to utilize that just because of the wow factor, especially with kids. And it gets them excited about college, and they get to see another part of the building. So I utilize that, the virtual reality lab, the drone flying. We just kind of use the different labs that we have available, and we try to partner again with the faculty that are in those specific spaces, just so we can show off those spaces as well, and show kids as well that there's other cool labs in the college, and going to college is more than just a classroom. So our next WOW series that we're looking at, and we're like 95% almost there, is this. We're going to do virtual pinball. We're going off of our arcade building camp that we've done 5 or 6 times now over the past few years. And we're building a pinball kit. And the pinball machine that you see in front of you is the first version. We actually just started the second version 2 nights ago. We're changing some of the buttons around. We're changing where the plunger is. It's fairly expensive compared to the arcade building, but it's really cool and it's really fun. You're actually looking at TV screens that are there. It does give you a 3D effect, and it does actually, when you play it, look like you're playing an actual pinball machine. We're going to encompass the top part. We have some different software that we're using that it didn't work, and now all of a sudden we don't know why. It started working, so we're trying to put all that together to make sure that it's not going to fail again on us. But this is kind of the first version, if you will, of virtual pinball. Other things that we have upcoming, if you've been at the Hanson Technology Center on our campus, you would know that we have a train from the House of David in the lobby area. And my tech used to work for the House of David. I used to volunteer there, and he actually used to ride these trains and fix these trains. So he is a train enthusiast, and we saw another makerspace doing airplane mechanics and thought, how fun would it be to do train mechanics and teach kids how a steam engine works? So we built a little bit more track and put it in front of where the actual train is, and we can run an air hose out to the train, and we can make the train work not from steam, but from air. It'll go forward and backwards. Once we lay the track, it'll go forward and backwards about 5 to 7 feet each way. But that's one of the things that we're looking at doing, and that'll be available in 2022. Intro to power tools is something that we're starting. A lot of people get intimidated by the tools that are in our space. So what we wanted to do is kind of do like a shop safety class, since there's a lot of shop safety not happening in the schools anymore. And let me rephrase that. Shop safety is happening, but the actual class is shop class is going away in some of our schools. So we wanted to be able to offer that and have people come in, get comfortable with the tools in the lab. And then Arcade Building 2.0. We were actually gifted an 82-inch TV that we're going to have mounted in the lab actually this afternoon. And instead of doing arcade building where you take an actual arcade machine home, we're going to do one of those plug and play boxes where the participants will actually make a small box that they'll be able to sit right on their lap. They'll be able to plug it into any TV, but we'll be able to plug it into the TV here, which will give them a big way to play Street Fighter, or you can turn the TV the other way so it's vertical, and they can play like huge Space Invaders or huge Pac-Man, like you see in the arcades now. So that's kind of one of the ways that we're kind of re-upping the arcade building and again doing this continuous improvement. Peter had a question. Do you have some data on how this adds to your overall enrollment, or is this too early? It really is too early. Most of the participants that we have, and I'll be honest with you, the Fab Lab when we opened in 2017 is not the Fab Lab that we have in 2021. We thought that we would do a membership model. We thought we'd end up having more students in it. And honestly, it started out 8 to 12, 14-year-olds and retired woodworkers. Those are the two groups that wanted to come in and use the lab. That's changed a little bit over the last couple of years, but we're going to, I'm not putting much into what happens during COVID just because, it skews the data, but we're starting to get more of like the private parties and the kids are starting to come back in. And that's kind of where we're gearing up right now. The one thing that we have seen is that a lot of the kids that were in the summer camps that are now 15, 16 years old want to come back in and volunteer because they had so much fun in the summer that they wanted to come back and volunteer and help the other students that are younger than them. So we're kind of starting that right now. Hopefully in the next couple, 3 years, we'll start seeing some of those kids come in and actually take classes at LMC. One of the last things I wanted to talk about was we did get a grant from the DENSCO North America for $28,900. And what it was enabled us to do is buy a lot of the supplies for our WOW series. So we were able to get a whole bunch of 3D printers. We were able to get a lot of our the wood, the TVs for virtual pinball, and we're utilizing that to make it a lot more cost effective for students to come in and be able to use the Fab Lab. Those kids or students that may not have been able to do it now have the opportunity to be able to do it. And this is a long time coming. It's one of those things that we wanted to do for the last 3 years and just weren't able to, and now we can. It's also going to fund 25 scholarships for summer camps for the next 2 summers. So we're really excited about that. We're going to have a lot more traffic, a lot more kids that maybe didn't think they were going to be able to be in the lab. They're going to be able to be in the lab now. So there's another question. Are faculty teaching these classes in camps? Yes and no. The techs teach most of the camps because they're the ones that are the most comfortable with the equipment. But whatever faculty that we're partnering with, they are here as well. So like for the ukulele, for example, our music instructor is here helping them put together the ukuleles. That's usually what our part that we do, and helping them decorate. And then when they start stringing them, he takes the lead, and then we assist with him for that. And then when they start learning how to play the ukulele, that's where I'm usually in there taking pictures and taking videos because it's hysterical and it's a lot of fun to do. See, is this viewed as a community service project aimed at future enrollment, or you hope to break even? Or it is not a good profit center. You will not make money at a Fab Lab. Andrews University came and toured the lab yesterday, and they're gonna make a makerspace for their students, and that was the one thing that I did tell them. It's not a profit center. Depending on how you do it, and if we really were to ramp up production for summer camps, then maybe it could be. And if you had a larger community where you could offer some of the same things over and over again, maybe it could. But we're such a small community that we really kind of try to reinvent the wheel and try to make new things. And it's not really a profit center. We break even with our materials and that, but that's about the extent of it. And then Peter said, would you share your power? Yes, I will. I'd be happy to share the PowerPoint. I I wanted to add a couple more things to it before the deadline actually hit, but I'll make sure that Ken has it so he can send it off to everybody that would like it or to make it public somewhere. That is all I had, and we still have 10 minutes to go. So any other questions that anybody has?
Yeah, one of the things I think in terms of the profit center that Scott talked about, I think it's important that one of the reasons why we looked at bringing on a Fab Lab when we had the opportunity to do so is to engage with individuals. Like Chad says, he fills that space up with 8 to 12 to 15-year-olds, and a lot of them don't have access to this type of equipment at their own schools. And so when students come here to the Fab Lab, it's open not only to our welding and other spaces where students can look through that whole building and actually see additional opportunities. And so that's a part of what that is. So they come in and get interested in equipment, get comfortable with using things that are easy to use. They walk away with a fun part that they made. And then, you know, Chad's worked in this field for a long time. He can help them and lead them into other spaces. So
it's also fun to kind of see what some faculty and what some students are actually able to create in here. They may not know that they can do what they can do in here. So for example, you know, we have plays that are here with the theater department, and I'd love to get them in here to, you know, make their scene sets here. Use the router, use the saws that we have here, and utilize that space. But also for students, students taking a marketing class and they're supposed to come up with like their own logo, instead of just putting it up on PowerPoint and designing it that way. We got a CNC embroidery machine here where they could actually upload their logo and then bring in a polo shirt, and they can embroider their logo onto their shirt so that when they do their presentation, they can just go, you know, here's my logo on my shirt instead of having it up on the screen. Just kind of gives another wow factor, if you will. Any other questions?
Peter had a question.
Sorry, the org structure. Yeah, I report to Ken. It's all under the technology division. And then the techs report to me, basically, is how it worked out. We did have a Fab Lab manager at one point where she was instrumental in getting the lab structured and what should be in there. She had a background, and I can't remember the name of the company, Tech something, but it was a big makerspace that was in the area, and she was instrumental in getting the Fab Lab up and running. But again, kind of like what we talked about, we were doing a membership model, and it just didn't work for our area, for our community. So we changed it up some, and if people want to come in and actually utilize the machines, they pay basically a rental fee for the machine, and it's very nominal. It's $5 to $15 per hour, depending on what it is that they're doing.
One of the key things that Chad mentioned was that this is not the same space that we envisioned in 2016. Chad's constantly reinventing it, constantly reviewing it, connecting with students, trying to make new things of interest, things that are successful he maintains. And again, if they're not, he tries it and throws away. So you just can't be afraid to try new things. And Chad's doing that all the time. Whether he's moving equipment around to make it comfortable for students to access, or buying new equipment. If somebody told me 5 years ago that I'd be buying sewing machines, I'd tell you you're crazy. But they've been, the cosplay students and individuals, I don't know if you mentioned this, all the masks that you guys made for when COVID hit. We won, Chad's team won an award with the region. But why don't you speak to that a little bit, Chad, what you're able to do there?
Yeah, well, we when the pandemic hit, I had actually an email or a Facebook comment, I don't remember which one it was, that basically said, you have a really good space there, so what are you doing to help? And it was kind of the kick in the butt that I needed to go, yeah, okay, well, what can we do? And me and the techs got together over a weekend, and we were trying to figure out what could we do, what materials we could get, and how we could help. And you don't typically answer all three of those at one time, but we did. And what we landed on is doing face shields. And we created over, I want to say 3,300, but it might have been 3,100 face shields. We started by 3D printing them, and then we found that it just took a long time to do. So we started laser cutting them, and then we found that the quality wasn't as good laser cutting them, so we went back to 3D printing. And we ended up having a volunteer sheet that people could come in and they could work from the Fab Lab while they were pressing the buttons on the 3D machines, on the 3D printers, and keeping the machines going for us, basically 24/7. It was about 18 hours a day that we were running. Then we had students, and I had high school students that were calling me and saying, "Hey, I have a 3D printer at home. Can you share the file with me and I'll print them?" And then they were dropping them off on our doors, which was it was phenomenal. We started making masks with the sewing machines, and I cannot even tell you how many masks that we made. We started doing ear savers. We 3D printed ear savers, and also was laser cutting them. And those basically went behind your head, kind of stretched on it, if you can see me on my screen, but stretched the elastic out so that way you weren't having it on your ears, so that our healthcare professionals weren't, having sores behind their ears anymore. So it was that kind of stuff that we were doing. And again, it got us in the lab. And when everybody else was at home, it was nice to be able to be out in the lab. And even if we had to be there by ourselves, we only had one person in the lab at one time because of the COVID restrictions. But it was nice to not be home too. So the lab is a little over 3,000 square feet. I was actually going to share my screen to show you where you could go. Oops. So here's our website. And if you go over to community and go down to Fab Lab, there's our page. And if you scroll down to the LMC Fab Lab manual, it'll open up a document that is out there for everybody to use and to see. And it talks about our hours, it talks about the current rates, it talks about what we have in there. So if you take a look, there's a page for each one. It tells you the software, it tells you the equipment, it gives you the model numbers. There's helpful hints, there's supply kits, there's where you can get materials. We try to give you everything that we can give you. There's YouTube videos that are out there so that you're able to see how the equipment works before it's even there. So, or before you even come into the shop. So it's all right there for you.
Yeah, Chad, Peter asked about who is responsible. So I think I would say Chad is responsible for the manual.
Oh, for the
Who made the manual?
Well, the Fab Lab manager that we had made the manual, and then I keep it updated as we change out equipment, as we if certain things kind of burn out, we put it away in storage. As procedures or policies change, I'm the one that does that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Chad.
No problem. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate the time to do this and share.
Yeah, no. Everyone have a great day and hope you're enjoying the conference.